You guys are not going to believe this. I came out this morning, coffee in hand, ready to face the day, and my protector mailbox, my pride and joy, was smashed to bits. Like obliterated. There were pieces on the lawn. The door was ripped off and spray painted across the side in hideous dripping black letters. Oh, trash! I was literally speechless. My coffee mug almost slipped right out of my hand. I was shaking. Okay, deep breaths. Let me back up. You guys gotta understand, this wasn't just any mailbox. This was my custom-built Galaxy Quest NSEA protector mailbox. I spent weeks on it. It had the perfect shade of nebula blue, the little hand-painted registry number. I even wired up tiny LED lights for the nacelles. It was glorious. It wasn't just a mailbox, it was art. It was hope. It was my little stand against the endless, soul-crushing beige of this neighborhood. Seriously, everything here is 50 shades of taupe. My mailbox was like a tiny, nerdy beacon saying, "Never give up, never surrender." And I knew. Oh, I knew instantly who did this. There was only one person in this entire subdivision capable of such pure, unadulterated malice. Brenda. Brenda the Blight Biggins, our HOA president. Let me tell you about Brenda. She got elected, like 2 months ago. Pretty sure she just nominated herself and no one else wanted the job. And she's been on a power trip ever since. She walks around like she's the queen of Beigelandia, clipboard in hand, ready to slap fines on anyone whose lawn dares to grow a quarter-inch too high. About a week ago, she came knocking. I opened the door and there she was looking like a bulldog chewing a wasp. She tapped her clipboard. "Mr. Miller," she said, in that voice that could curdle milk, "I need to address the non-compliant nature of your mail receptacle." I was like, "My mailbox?" "Precisely," she sniffed, adjusting her glasses. "It does not conform to the approved aesthetic spectrum outlined in Bylaw 7, subsection C, paragraph 2. I swear, you guys, I almost laughed. The approved aesthetic spectrum? Are we living in some kind of dystopian movie? It's a mailbox. It's fun. She was not amused. "Fun," she said, like the word tasted bad, "is not harmonious with community standards. This serves as your first official warning. Please rectify the situation within 14 days. Rectify? Who even talks like that? I tried to be reasonable. I really did. I said, "Brenda, with all due respect, it's just a mailbox. It makes people smile." She just gave me this icy stare and said, "Lack of conformity often invites unwanted attention. 14 days, Mr. Miller." And then she just turned and marched off, her sensible heels clicking ominously on the sidewalk. Unwanted attention. A threat. I knew it was a threat. So yeah, back to this morning. Standing there, staring at the wreckage of my beautiful protector, the little LED wires were ripped out. Someone took a hammer to this thing. And that spray paint. Ugh! And just as I'm trying to process the sheer awfulness of it all, guess who comes strolling down the sidewalk, walking her yappy little poodle named Princess Fluffernutter? I am not making that up. Brenda, the Blight, Biggins herself. She stops, puts on this fake, syrupy sad face. Oh my. "Michael! What on earth happened here?" I just stared at her. "Vandalism," she gasped, clutching her pearls. "Probably fake, just saying. How dreadful. You see?" She gestured vaguely at the smashed box. "This is precisely the kind of unwanted attention I warned you about. Perhaps if your mailbox were more subdued, this unfortunate incident could have been avoided." Can you believe she said that? Straight to my face, blaming me for what she clearly did. I nearly choked on my own spit, you guys. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I just clenched my fists. My brain was whirring, despair turning into cold, hard fury. No way. No way was I letting this slide. She messed with the wrong nerd. She messed with the wrong mailbox. She messed with the spirit of the NSEA. Protector. Oh, Brenda, you have no idea what you just started. This isn't over. Not by a long shot, but that wasn't even the worst part. Oh no. You won't believe the letter I got in the mail literally the next day. My jaw? On the floor. Just wait. Okay, so where were we? Ah yes, the morning after the Great Mailbox Massacre. I was still reeling, you guys, trying to duct tape the poor protector back together just enough so the mail carrier wouldn't skip my house. And then the mail arrived. There it was. An official-looking envelope. HOA logo in the corner. My stomach just tanked. I ripped it open right there on the porch. And I just stared. It was a bill. A fine. For $500. $500. And the reason? Get this. Failure to maintain property appearance standards. Display of damaged and unsightly fixture, mailbox, and non-compliance with community aesthetic guidelines following official warning. She fined me for the mailbox she destroyed. The sheer, unmitigated gall. I was literally vibrating with rage. $500. That's like half my rent. Okay, not really, but still. It's a lot for a mailbox she trashed. I stomped inside, grabbed my phone, and immediately called the HOA office number. Straight to voicemail. And guess whose voice answered? You've reached the Homeowners Association office, Brenda's sickly sweet voice chirped. Our hours are 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, though response times may vary due to ongoing community beautification efforts. Please leave a message and remember, a tidy community is a happy community. I wanted to throw my phone across the room. I swear I could hear the smirk in her voice. I needed backup. I called Chad. Dude, I practically yelled into the phone. You are not going to believe what Brenda just pulled. I explained the fine. Chad was silent for a second. Then, predictably, 500? Oh man, Mikey, that's rough. Are you sure you want to fight this? Maybe just pay it. And you know, his voice dropped to a whisper. Paint the next mailbox beige? Beige? I screamed. Beige! Chad, have you been replaced by a pod person? This is about principle. This is about justice. This is about Galaxy Quest. He sighed. That long-suffering sigh I know so well. Okay, no beige. But dude, this lady sounds like a psycho. What if she escalates? What if she starts like poisoning your begonias? Or releasing termites? We need to think strategically. Plausible deniability. Typical Chad. Always thinking about the tactical retreat. But he's loyal. I'll give him that. He agreed to help me dig through the online HOA bylaws later, looking for loopholes. Just be careful, okay? He pleaded. Don't poke the bear too hard. I hung up, still fuming. I needed air. I just started walking, practically storming down the sidewalk, muttering under my breath. And then I saw her, Agnes Periwinkle, down on her knees, tending to her prize-winning roses like nothing was wrong in the world. She looked up as I stomped past. Rough morning, Michael? She asked, her eyes twinkling. You have no idea, Agnes, I grumbled, stopping. It's Brenda. She smashed my mailbox and then fined me for it. Agnes just nodded slowly, snipping off a dead rose bloom with precision. Ah, Brenda, she said, like she was discussing a particularly stubborn weed. Yes. Reminds me of the time back in 17 she tried to tell me my prize zucchini was obstructing the view of the petunias from the astral plane. Like what? Agnes chuckled, a dry rustling sound. That one's always been wound a bit tight. She looked me right in the eye. Don't let her grind you down, dear boy. She hates Tuesdays, you know. Terribly inefficient day for her schedule. And she has a shocking weakness for a free Danish. I blinked. Tuesdays? Danish? Was this spycraft advice? From Agnes Periwinkle? Before I could ask more, she just smiled mysteriously and went back to her roses. Patience and persistence, she murmured, more to the flowers than to me, and knowing where to dig. Walking back, I felt slightly less rage-filled and more intrigued. Agnes knew things, and as I got back to my poor, sad mailbox, I started cleaning up the debris properly. Bits of plastic, shards of paint, and then my fingers closed around something papery wedged under a chunk of smashed metal. I pulled it out. It was a crumpled receipt from a craft store. But the business name at the top? Brenda's Bespoke Baskets. My eyes went wide. Brenda's side hustle. The one she definitely didn't declare to the HOA because running a business from your home was strictly against Rule 14, subsection B. The very rule she used to shut down Mrs. Gable's little cupcake business last year. It wasn't much, just a receipt. But it was something. A loose thread. I had a tiny thread, you guys. A very, very tiny thread. But I remembered what Agnes said. Every tapestry starts with a single thread, dear boy. And let me tell you, the tapestry I was about to weave, it was going to be magnificent. Brenda had no idea what was coming. Okay, Operation Anti-Blight was officially on. The next evening, we convened the first meeting of the resistance. Location, my garage, aka the war room. Attendees, me, Chad, and Agnes. Chad looked nervous, perched awkwardly on a toolbox. Okay, just so we're clear, he started, adjusting his glasses. Our objective is justice, not get Mikey arrested for harassment, right? Relax, Chad, I said, pacing excitedly in front of my workbench. This is gonna be surgical, precise, a masterpiece of righteous payback. Agnes, sipping tea from a delicate china cup she'd brought herself, just smiled. Indeed. Though a little theatricality never hurts, does it? I grinned. Okay, so my first thought, I admitted, lowering my voice conspiratorially, involved a very large slingshot, several gallons of pink paint, and aiming for Brenda's prize-winning beige azaleas. But Chad said something about property damage felonies? Party pooper, Chad groaned. Mikey, focus. Legal. Remember? Legal. Right. Legal. That's where Agnes came in. She placed a thick, worn binder on the workbench with a soft thud. It was labeled simply HOA Records, Vol Versa, 7. This, my dears, she announced, opening it to a page dense with handwritten notes in the margins, is our weapon. You guys, Agnes wasn't kidding. She had copies of bylaws going back decades, meeting minutes, old newsletters, notes on past disputes. It was glorious. Brenda's Achilles heel, Agnes murmured, tapping a perfectly manicured finger on a specific section, has always been Bylaw 14, restrictions on home-based commercial enterprises. And, she flipped a few pages, Bylaw 22, transparency and allocation of community funds for association events. My eyes lit up. Her bespoke baskets and her ridiculous annual Community Beautification Awards gala, Agnes finished, a mischievous glint in her eye. Coming up in 2 weeks, she treats it like her personal coronation. Chad leaned closer, suddenly interested. Wait, you think she's using HOA money for that thing? Beyond, like, renting the hall? Brenda considers herself the primary beautification effort, Agnes said dryly. I suspect the budget might reveal interesting priorities. This was it. The perfect storm. Her illegal side hustle and potential misuse of HOA funds. And the perfect venue to expose it. Her own vanity project. The irony. It was almost too beautiful. Okay, I said, grabbing a whiteboard marker. Phase 1. Intel. Chad, now fully engaged in risk assessment mode, got to work on his laptop. Okay, searching public records for Brenda's bespoke baskets. Aha. Registered last year. No business license filed with the city, though. Sloppy. Brenda. Very sloppy. Meanwhile, Agnes and I became the neighborhood's least likely spy duo. We did community observation, which basically meant Agnes pretended to prune her hedges while I pretended to look for lost keys near Brenda's house, noting down every delivery truck that stopped there. Large shipment from Craftopia Wholesale, Agnes would mutter, peering over her spectacles. Ribbon, I suspect. Excessive amounts of mauve. Brenda, meanwhile, was getting more unbearable as the gala approached. She was strutting around, clipboard seemingly fused to her hand, barking orders at the poor guy mowing the communal lawn, critiquing Mrs. Gable's new welcome mat. Far too whimsical, Janice. She's drunk on power, I whispered to Agnes one afternoon. Agnes just smiled. Pride goeth before a fall, dear boy, especially on poorly maintained sidewalks. The plan was solidifying. Gather concrete proof of the business and the gala budget shenanigans. Then, at the gala, during the Q&A session Brenda always insists on to soak up praise, we drop the bomb, publicly, using her precious bylaws against her. But then, disaster almost struck. I was trying to get a discreet video on my phone of a delivery guy dropping off 3 huge boxes, clearly labeled Basket Bonanza Inc., at Brenda's front door. I was hiding behind a conveniently large oak tree across the street. Suddenly, Brenda's front door opened. She stepped out, squinting suspiciously right at my tree. My heart leapt into my throat. I fumbled my phone, ducked down, and pretended to be violently tying my shoe. Like, really intensely tying it. Everything all right over there, Michael? She called out, her voice sharp with suspicion. Yep. Fine. Just, stubborn lace, I squeaked, not looking up. My face was burning. I could feel her eyes on me. After what felt like an eternity, she sniffed disdainfully and went back inside. Close call. Way too close. I scrambled back to my house, heart pounding. A near miss, Agnes commented later over tea. She sees everything. Perhaps direct surveillance is too risky. We need something less conspicuous. Something already on the inside. Like what? Chad asked, looking pale. Are you suggesting we bug her house? Because I am not hacking the HOA treasurer's email. Agnes just smiled that cryptic smile again. Oh, nothing quite so. Digital, dear Chad. Sometimes the oldest methods are the most effective. She tapped the thick binder. Brenda may control the present, but I have the archives. And I know Timothy. Timothy? Timid Tim, the HOA treasurer? What about him? I asked. Agnes winked. Timothy, she said, keeps meticulous records, especially when he's worried. And Brenda? Well, Brenda makes Timothy very, very worried. You guys, I had no idea what Agnes was planning, but the way she said it, I knew our smoking gun was within reach. This was getting seriously next level. Just wait until you hear what she dug up. Okay? You guys, gala night. The tension? You could cut it with one of Brenda's artisanal basket-weaving knives. 2 days before, Agnes had worked her magic. I don't know exactly how she did it. Maybe she baked Timid Tim some scones. Maybe she reminded him about that unfortunate incident with the sprinklers back in 2009. But she did it. She met me at our usual spot by her prize-winning roses, a single folded piece of paper in her hand. A draft of the gala budget, Michael, she said, handing it over with the solemnity of someone passing state secrets. Timothy was persuaded that a second pair of eyes might ensure accuracy. I unfolded it. My jaw dropped. Chad, peering over my shoulder via video call, he was too nervous to be seen near Agnes's house pre-gala, actually gasped. It was better than we imagined. Right there, in black and white, under event expenses. Keynote speaker, appearance fee. B. Biggins. $250. She was paying herself to speak? Hostess attire and styling allowance, $500. $500 for a dress? Volunteer appreciation gifts. Source? B. Biggins bespoke baskets. $1,000. $1,000 of HOA money spent on her own illegal side business. She's ripping off the HOA, I yelled. This is the smoking gun. It's a whole freaking arsenal. Agnes just smiled calmly. Precisely. Shall we proceed? Fast forward to the gala, held in the community hall, which Brenda had decorated in what I can only describe as early American dictator style. Lots of beige bunting, plastic ferns, and slightly blurry photos of Brenda pointing at things. The canapes looked suspicious. The punch tasted vaguely of regret. And Timid Tim, the treasurer, kept dabbing his forehead with a handkerchief, looking like he was about to throw up. Chad, Agnes, and I found seats near the back, but with a clear view of the stage. Chad looked sharp but was sweating slightly, and Agnes, resplendent in a lavender pantsuit, looked utterly serene. I had my phone ready. Chad had the budget scans loaded onto a discreet thumb drive for the hall's projector, and Agnes just looked like she was enjoying the show. Brenda took the stage like she was accepting an Oscar, beaming, clutching a microphone. Welcome, welcome, she trilled, adjusting her truly unfortunate ruffled blouse. To our 3rd annual Community Beautification Awards Gala, a night to celebrate harmony, conformity, and the tireless efforts, she paused for emphasis, led by yours truly to maintain our neighborhood's aesthetic integrity. She droned on for what felt like hours, about shrub symmetry, about approved mailbox colors. I swear she glared at me. About the importance of following rules. Finally, she said, and now, before we announce the winner of the coveted Golden Gnome Award for Landscaping Excellence, I'd be happy to take 1 or 2 questions from the community. This was it. My heart was pounding. Agnes gave me a tiny, almost imperceptible nod. I stood up. My voice felt weirdly calm. Excuse me, Brenda? All heads turned. Brenda blinked, her smile tightening slightly. Yes. Michael? Before we get to the Golden Gnome, I said, keeping my voice steady. Some of us had a few questions about the budget for this lovely event, and perhaps some clarification on Bylaw 14 regarding home-based businesses. You could hear a pin drop. Brenda's smile vanished. I assure you, Michael, all expenditures were board-approved and are perfectly in line with... Are they? I interrupted, holding up my phone displaying the receipt scan. Because I have here evidence of Brenda's bespoke baskets, an unregistered business being run from your home. And, I nodded to Chad, who smoothly walked up to the little tech table and plugged in his thumb drive. Suddenly, projected onto the screen behind Brenda's head was the damning budget spreadsheet, the $500 dress allowance, the $1,000 for her own baskets, the $250 speaker fee. Gasps rippled through the crowd. People were pointing, whispering. Brenda spun around, saw the screen, and her face went through about 5 different colors. Smug to confused, to pale, to blotchy purple-red rage. It was like watching a science experiment go beautifully, horribly wrong. Furthermore, Agnes's clear voice cut through the stunned silence, standing up beside me. Bylaw 22, subsection D, explicitly prohibits board members from self-dealing or using HOA funds for personal enrichment or unapproved personal businesses. Timothy, she turned to the treasurer, who looked like he might actually faint. Perhaps you can confirm these budget lines? Brenda lost it. This is an outrage, she shrieked, her voice cracking. A conspiracy. You're all just jealous. Jealous of my leadership. Jealous of my beautiful baskets. She actually lunged towards the projector, trying to block the screen with her body. This is my gala. You can't do this to me. The crowd was just silent, watching, mortified. It was the most gloriously awkward implosion I have ever witnessed. And then, the bravest man in the room, Timid Tim, bless his beige little heart, actually straightened his tie, took a deep breath, and stood up. Brenda, he said, his voice surprisingly firm, I think we need to have a board meeting. Immediately. The look on Brenda's face, pure sputtering disbelief turning into utter panic. Oh, you better believe karma had just arrived, checked its coat, and was heading straight for the buffet. This was better than I could have dreamed. You guys, the aftermath of that gala meltdown. Epic. Absolute chaos, but the best kind of chaos. So, the board had their emergency meeting right then and there, in a little side room off the main hall. We could hear raised voices, mostly Brenda's shrieking, even through the closed door. Chad, Agnes, and I just sat there, trying not to look too smug, while the rest of the neighborhood milled around, whispering excitedly. It was like the season finale of a reality show none of us knew we were starring in. Apparently, according to Timid Tim later, who seemed to have grown a spine overnight, it was amazing. Brenda tried everything. She tried filibustering by reading the entire HOA section on approved fence stains out loud. She tried blaming Tim for clerical errors. She even tried claiming her bespoke baskets were actually a non-profit charity donating to the HOA. The nerve! But it was no use. The evidence was right there. The whole neighborhood had seen it. Timid Tim, emboldened by basically everyone patting him on the back, actually stood his ground. He didn't have a gavel, but Chad swears he saw Tim bang his stapler on the table for emphasis. A stapler. That's my new hero right there. The end result? Brenda the Blight Biggins was forced to resign. Effective immediately. Not only that, she had to pay back all the misspent HOA funds. The dress money, the speaker fee, the $1,000 for her stupid baskets. And all those bogus fines she'd handed out, including my $500, totally rescinded. Void. Gone. And get this, a few days later, her Brenda's Bespoke Baskets website just disappeared. Poof! Like a fart in the wind. Like her dignity. Oh, it was beautiful, you guys. Chef's kiss. The neighborhood was buzzing. It was like a cloud had lifted. People were actually smiling at each other. Mrs. Henderson, the wind chime lady, dropped off a plate of still warm chocolate chip cookies at my door, with a little note that just said, "Thank you." Someone else left an anonymous bottle of decent whiskey on my porch. It was like the Munchkins celebrating after the Wicked Witch melted, only with more casseroles being exchanged and less singing. People started sharing their own Brenda horror stories openly, laughing about them. But the absolute best part? The cherry on top of the karma sundae? They needed an interim HOA president while they figured things out. And guess who got nominated and then elected by basically unanimous decision at a hastily called community meeting? Agnes, the archive. Periwinkle. I am not kidding. President Agnes. Can you believe it? She showed up to her first official board meeting wearing a very sensible but stylish floral pantsuit, carrying her ancient binder of bylaws and a brand new gavel she apparently found at an estate sale. Her first order of business? Planning a neighborhood BBQ funded entirely by the money Brenda had to pay back. Second order? Forming a committee to review and potentially de-beigify the community aesthetic guidelines. Yes! And my mailbox? Oh, you know I had to rebuild. Check this out. The NSEA. Protector MKU. Bigger. Better. More chrome. The nacelle lights now have a subtle pulsing effect. And guess what? Fully HOA approved. President Agnes signed off on it herself. Her official comment on the approval form? Shows commendable artistic spirit and a pioneering approach to intergalactic postal communication. I love Agnes. So yeah, life in the neighborhood is nice now? It's weird. People are actually talking to each other. Chad is relieved I didn't end up in jail. Brenda? Apparently she still lives here, but nobody sees her much. Someone saw her trying to tuck a passive-aggressive note about excessive lawn gnome congregation onto the community notice board last week. But Agnes just calmly covered it up with a giant, brightly colored flyer for the upcoming BBQ. Savage. Absolutely savage. So,